The 12th flesh. This explains two fine points related to the Qur'an and was written in connection with two minor questions put by Rafat Bey. In His name be He glorified, and there is nothing but it glorifies Him with praise. Peace be upon you and on your brothers, and God's mercy and blessings. My dear, loyal brother Rafat Bey, your questions at this difficult time put me in a difficult position. On this occasion, they are both unimportant, but they did seem to me to be significant since they are related to 2 points of the Qur'an, and your question about the globe of the earth touches on criticisms about the 7 levels of the earth and the heavens made by geography and astronomy. So, disregarding the unimportant nature of the questions, I shall explain 2 fine points about 2 verses of the Qur'an in a scholarly and general way. First topic. This consists of 2 points. First point. According to the verses, how many are the creatures that carry not their own sustenance? It is God who feeds both them and you. For God is He who gives all sustenance, Lord of power, steadfast forever. Sustenance is supervised by the all-powerful One of glory and comes directly from the treasure of His mercy. Since the sustenance of all living creatures is guaranteed by the sustainer, none should die of hunger. Whereas apparently many do die of heat and of lack of food. This is a fact on the one hand and a mystery on the other, and may be solved as follows. The sustainer's guarantee is true, none die of hunger. For that, all-wise One of glory stores up some of the food He sends to the bodies of living creatures as fat, as reserves. In fact, He stores up a part of the sustenance He sends to each cell, in the cell, like a reserve stock to be spent when no food comes from outside. The creatures die before the store is finished. That is to say, death in such cases is not from lack of sustenance. The creatures die from mistakenly acquired habits and due to illness resulting from the desire for the wrong things and the giving up of habit. Yes, the natural sustenance stored up in the bodies of living creatures in the form of fat generally lasts perfectly well for 40 days. It may even last twice that long in cases of illness or certain ascetic states. It was written in the newspapers 13 years ago, and now it is 39, that out of extreme stubbornness, a man in prison in London managed to live quite healthily for 70 days, eating nothing at all. Since the natural sustenance lasts from 40 days to 70 or 80, and since the manifestation of the divine name of provider is apparent on the face of the earth thoroughly extensively, and since foods flow forth from breasts and from wombs even in completely unexpected fashion, if man, so full of evil, does not interfere with his mistaken choices and confuse things, that name comes to the assistance of the living creature before the natural sustenance is consumed, preventing death from starvation. In which case, if those who die of hunger do so in less than 40 days, it is definitely not from lack of sustenance. Rather, in accordance with the saying, the abandoning of habit is fatal, it occurs either from a bad habit or from illness resulting from the giving up of habits. In which case, it may be said that there is no death from hunger. Indeed, observedly, sustenance is in inverse proportion to power and will. For example, when still in the womb, young are completely deprived of power and will, yet are fed to repletion. Then, when they come into the world, they still lack power and will, but since they have some sort of ability and potential senses, needing only to fasten their mouths to the breast, the most perfect, nutritious, and easily digestible food is given to their mouths from those fountains in the gentlest form and strangest way. Then, as they acquire a little amount of power and will, that readily available fine food starts to be withdrawn from them. The fountains of the breasts dry up, and the infant's food is sent from elsewhere. However, since their power and will are still insufficient to search for it, so the munificent provider sends their parents tenderness and compassion to assist them. Whenever their power and will are perfected, then their sustenance does not hasten to them and is not made to do so. The sustenance remains in its place, saying, "Come and search for me and take me." That is to say, sustenance is in inverse proportion to power and will. We have indeed explained in many parts of the Risale-i Nur that animals most lacking in will and power are better nourished and live better than those with greater will and power. Second point, there are different sorts of possibility, like reasonable possibility, customary possibility, and ordinary possibility. If an event is not within the bounds of reasonable possibility, it is rejected, and if it is not within the bounds of customary possibility, it is a miracle but may not easily be wonder-working. If there is nothing similar to it, either according to common usage or in principle, it can only be accepted through a categorical proof as clear as witnessing. In consequence of this, the extraordinary states of Sayyid Ahmed Bedawi, who for 40 days refrained from eating bread even, are within the bounds of customary possibility. It may have been both wonder-working and an habitual practice out of the ordinary. Yes, there are numerous unanimous reports concerning Sayyid Ahmed Bedawi's, may his mystery be sanctified, wondrous states and absorption in ecstasy. On occasion, he ate only once in 40 days, but he did not do that all the time. He achieved it sometimes as an instance of wonder-working. It possibly became a habit for him because he did not feel the need to eat while in a state of ecstasy. Wonders of this sort have been reliably narrated about many saints of his kind. As we brought in the first point, stored up sustenance remains undepleted for more than 40 days, and it is possible not to eat for that length of time through a habit, and such a state has been reliably reported about people who were out of the ordinary. It therefore cannot be denied. Two important matters will be explained in connection with the second question, for the sciences of geography and astronomy have criticized the verse and foolishly even tried to deny it, because with their abbreviated laws and narrow principles and tiny scales they have been unable to ascend to the heavens of the Qur'an and have been unable to discover the 7 levels of meanings in the stars of its verses. First important matter. This is about the earth having 7 levels like the heavens. This matter appears to the philosophers of the present time to be untrue. Their sciences about the earth and heavens find it unacceptable, and making it a pretext, they oppose some of the truths of the Qur'an. We shall point out concisely a few points about this. The first. Firstly, the verse's meaning is one thing, and the parts of the meaning and points confirming it another. The meaning cannot be denied if one of the many parts of the universal meaning is absent. Of the numerous parts of the universal meaning concerning the 7 levels of the heavens and 7 layers of the earth, 7 points confirming it are clearly apparent. Secondly, the verse does not explicitly state that the earth has 7 layers. The apparent meaning of the verse is, God is He who created 7 heavens, and of the earth what is similar, to the end of the verse. He created the earth like the 7 heavens and made it a dwelling place for His creatures. It does not say, I created it in 7 levels. Its being similar is in regard to createdness and being the habitation of creatures. The second, the globe of the earth is certainly very small in relation to the heavens, but as the exhibition, display, gathering place, and center of countless divine artifacts, as the heart and immaterial center of the West, endless heavens, it is equivalent to them, like the heart may be seen as equivalent to the body. For this reason, the earth having 7 climes, as was supposed from early times, also the well-known 7 continents, Europe, Africa, Oceania, the 2 Asias, and the 2 Americas, also together with the seas, the East, West, North, and South, the well-known 7 regions of this face, and on the face of the New World, also the various, contiguous 7 levels from the center to the outer crust, which have been established by science, and the famous 7 universal elements called the 7 levels, which comprise the 70 simple elements that are the means of perpetuating animate creatures' lives. Also, the 4 elements of water, air, fire, and earth, together with the animal, vegetable, and mineral kingdoms, making 7 levels and realms. Also, the 7 realms of the earth verified by those who uncover the secrets of creation, and the people of witnessing, who are very numerous, their testimony that they are the worlds and habitations of jinns, demons, and other various sentient and living creatures. Also, the 7 levels indicating that 7 further globes exist resembling our globe, and that they are the dwelling places of living creatures. From these indications, it has been understood from verses of the Qur'an that the earth, too, has 7 levels. It thus becomes clear that the earth has 7 sorts of levels that exist in 7 ways. The 8th, which is the final meaning, is important from another point of view. It is not included in the 7. The 3rd, since the absolutely wise one wastes nothing and creates nothing in vain, and since creatures exist for conscious beings and find their perfection by means of conscious beings and rejoice through them and are saved from futility by means of them, and since observably the absolutely wise one, the all-powerful one of glory, fills the element of air and world of water and layer of earth with innumerable living beings, and since, just as air and water are not an obstacle to the movement of animals, so dense matter like earth and stone do not form obstacles to the passage of matter like electricity and X-rays. For sure, the all-wise one of glory, the undying maker, will not leave empty and uninhabited the broad spaces and worlds and caves and 7 contiguous layers from the center of our globe to the outer crust, which is our habitation and center. He has certainly populated them and created and settled there conscious beings appropriate to those worlds. Since those sentient creatures must be angels and spirit beings of a sort, the densest and hardest layer even will be to them as the sea is to fish and the air is to birds. The awesome heat at the center of the earth even must be for those conscious creatures like the sun's heat is for us. Created from light, for those sentient spirit beings fire is like light. The 4th, mentioned in the 18th letter, is a comparison about the depictions made by the people of illumination of the strange wonders of the earth's levels, which are outside the bounds of reason. A summary is this. In the manifest realm, the globe is a seed, while in the world of similitudes, an intermediate realm, it is so vast as to be equal to the heavens. If the people of illumination have seen a level of the earth, particular to demons, which has a breadth of 1,000 years, it is not in the seed of the earth that pertains to the manifest world, but is a manifestation of its branches and levels in the world of similitudes. Since an apparently insignificant level of the earth has such a vast manifestation in another world, surely it may be said that it has 7 levels which are the equivalent of the 7 levels of the heavens. In order to call to mind the above points, the Qur'an's verses allude to them by showing in a miraculously concise way that the tiny earth is the equivalent of the 7 levels of the heavens. Second important matter. The 7 heavens and the earth and all that is in them extols and glorifies Him to the end of the verse, and has applied His design to the heavens and fashioned them into 7 heavens, and he has full knowledge of all things. Numerous verses like these depict the heavens as sevenfold. It is appropriate to write here only a summary of this matter, which of necessity we expounded extremely briefly in the commentary Risale-i Nur, Science of Miraculousness, while on the front in the first year of the Great War. It is as follows. Ancient philosophy conceived of the heavens as being 9 in number, accepting in the tongue of the Sharia the throne of God and seat of God together with the 7 heavens. They depicted the heavens in strange manner. The glittering terms of the philosophers held mankind under their sway for many centuries. In fact, many Qur'anic commentators were compelled to make the apparent meanings of verses conform to their school. In this way, the all-wise Qur'an's miraculousness was veiled to an extent. As for the new philosophy called modern science, in the face of the excesses of ancient philosophy about the heavens, it went to the other extreme and quite simply denied the heavens' existence. The former went to excess, and the latter was deficient. They were unable to portray reality in its entirety. As for the sacred wisdom of the all-wise Qur'an, it left aside such excess and deficiency, and choosing the middle way, said that the all-glorious Maker created the 7 levels of the heavens. The planets swim in the heavens like fish and glorify God. It says in a hadith, "The skies are waves held back." That is, the heavens are an ocean, the waves of which are stationary. We shall prove this Qur'anic truth extremely briefly with rules and 7 aspects of meaning. First rule. It is established by science and philosophy that limitless space is not an infinite vacuum, but is filled with matter called ether. The second. It is established by science and reason, indeed by observation, that a matter which fills space is the bond of the laws governing the heavenly bodies like those of attraction and repulsion, and is the conductor and transmitter of such forces in matter as light, heat, and electricity. The third, it has been established empirically that while remaining as ether, it has various forms and formations like other matter. Just as there are 3 states of the same matter, liquid, gas, and solid, for instance, steam, water, and ice, so there is nothing to reasonably prevent ether having 7 states or levels. It cannot be objected to in any way. The fourth, if the heavenly bodies are studied carefully, it will be seen that there is a difference in the levels. The level that contains the vast nebular sphere called the Milky Way, of course, does not resemble the level of the fixed stars. It is as if those stars have ripened and matured like the fruits of summer, while the uncountable stars apparent in the form of a cloud in the Milky Way are constantly emerging and beginning to mature. According to the accurate conjecture, the level of fixed stars also appears different to the level of the solar system. And so on. One may adduce 7 systems and 7 levels which differ from one another. The fifth, it is established by conjecture, sense, inductive reasoning, and experience that if a material is given order and form, and if other artifacts are made from the material, it is transformed into various levels and forms. For example, when a diamond mine is worked, from the material, ashes, coal, and diamonds are produced. And when fire is lit, it separates into the levels of flame, smoke, and embers. And when water and oxygen are combined, levels like water, ice, and steam are formed. That is to say, when a single substance is worked, it may separate into levels. In which case, when creative power started to work in the substance called ether, in accordance with the verse, and fashioned them into 7 heavens, it created from each 7 sorts of heavens as different levels. The sixth, the above indications necessarily indicate both the existence and the plurality of the heavens. Since the heavens are certainly numerous, and the bringer of sure news, upon whom be blessings and peace, stated in the tongue of the Qur'an that their number 7, for sure they are 7. The 7th. Since in Arabic, terms like 7, 70, and 700 express multiplicity, those universal 7 levels may comprise multiple levels. In short, the all-powerful One of Glory created the 7 heavens from ether and forming it into levels, ordered it with a truly fine and wondrous order and sought the stars in it. Since the Qur'an of miraculous exposition is a pro-eternal address speaking to all the classes of all mankind and the jinn, for sure each of those classes will receive its share from the Qur'an's verses, and its verses will contain various and numerous meanings, both explicit and implicit, in a way that will satisfy the understanding of each. Yes, the breadth of the Qur'anic address and the comprehensiveness of its meanings and indications, and its conforming to all, flattering all the degrees of understanding from the most uneducated common people to the highest of the elites, shows that all its verses have an aspect which looks to each class. Thus, in consequence of this mystery, as an example, 7 classes of men understand as follows the meaning of 7 various levels from the universal meaning 7 heavens. A short-sighted and narrow-minded class of men understands the atmosphere from the verse and fashions them into 7 heavens, while another class of men befuddled by astronomy understands the famous stars known popularly as the 7 planets and their orbits. Yet another group understands 7 celestial globes resembling our globe, which are inhabited by living creatures. A further group of men understands the solar system being separated into 7 levels and 7 solar systems together with our system. And yet another group understands the ether being separated into 7 levels. Another class of men with broader ideas counts all the visible skies yielded with stars as a heaven, and saying that it is this world's heaven, understands that there are 6 levels of heavens besides it. And mankind's 7th and highest class do not consider the 7 heavens to be restricted to the manifest world, and understands that the worlds of the hereafter and the unseen and this world and the world of similitudes all have 7 heavens, each of which is an encompassing container and roof. Similarly, there are many further particular meanings in the universal of the verse, like the above-mentioned 7 levels of meaning of the 7 levels. Everyone receives his share according to his understanding, and everyone finds his sustenance at that heavenly table. Since the verse has thus numerous points confirming it, the unreasoning philosophers and foolish astronomers attacking the verse in that way on the pretext of denying the heavens is like silly children throwing stones at a star in the hope of making it fall. Because if one of the points confirming it from the verse's universal meaning is correct, the universal meaning is correct and true. A particular even which is not literally true but is commonly accepted may be included in the universal meaning in order to conform to the generally held ideas. Whereas we saw numerous particulars which are right and true. Now look at this unfair, unjust geography and drunken, intoxicated astronomy, how wrong these two sciences have been, closing their eyes to the universal meaning, which is right and correct and true, and not seeing the aspects which confirm it and are absolutely right. They are fancied and imaginary and extraordinary particular to be the meaning of the verse, and thrown stones at the verse. And they have broken their own heads and lost their belief. In short, since like jinns and Satan's unbelieving materialist ideas have been unable to ascend to the 7 levels of the skies of the Qur'an, which was revealed in 7 recitations and with 7 aspects, 7 sorts of miraculousness, 7 truths, and 7 pillars, they do not know what there is and what there is not in the stars of its verses, and give false and inaccurate reports. So, falling stars like the above discussion descend on their heads from the stars of those verses and scorch them. Yes, the heavens of the Qur'an cannot be ascended to by means of the jinn-like ideas of philosophy. The stars of its verses can only be risen to through the ascension of true wisdom and the wings of belief and Islam. O God, grant blessings to the sun of the skies of prophethood and moon of the firmament of messengerhood, and to his family and companions, the stars of guidance for the rightly guided. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise. O God, O sustainer of the heavens and earth, adorn the hearts of the translator of this treatise and his companions with the stars of the truths of the Qur'an and belief. Amin.